Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast. Lehr with me, your host, Imperial Dane, Master of Instruction. We are off here to the Assault Grenadier, Sturmgrenadier, if you will, although technically Sturmgrenadier were essentially Grenadiers who are much more heavily equipped in terms of light machine guns and other supportive weapons. But that's another matter. Anyways, these five gentlemen here represent a rather early assault unit here for the Germans, doctrinal from the mechanized assault doctrine. Possesses 5 submachine guns, reasonably powerful, can make light work of a lot of things, if you so fancy it. On the other hand, just like any other German infantry, they possess pretty much no body armor, which means if you just rush them in from the wrong angle, they're going to cut up, which overall means you want to advance through cover. And again, note, that's one fact what I did right here. I stuck to the cover, sort of slowly jumped from light cover to light cover point, slowly advancing, basically ensuring as much as possible that there'd be some light cover covering my assault grenadiers. That's only one of the first assault tactics you essentially want to learn, and that's also going to be something that applies to most other assault units, that is, units with submachine guns. Pioneers, shock troopers, assault grenadiers, conscript with submachine guns, so on, so on. Generally, you want to sort of do your best to advance with that cover roll. It's also a good tactic for anything else, but for assault troops, it's really dependent because you usually want to get close with them. Of course, right here I'm trying to sort of scout out where my opponent is. And of course, here's another bit. I'm sort of trying to sort of also advance and sort of try to ensure I don't get seen as much. And here we see another ability of the assault grenadiers, actually recently added here in the March deployment patch. It is Sprint, which gives, for just a few seconds, allows them to sort of quickly move ahead. And that's just basically just there to sort of quickly get your boost, either up to get up close to the enemy or to get the devil out of there. Costs 10 munitions, so it's not something you just sort of use willy-nilly. And again, so also jumping it too early can sort of basically end up you not doing so much with it. But again, properly utilizing and sort of quickly get you close in with a unit, give you a slight advantage. Then, of course, right here we see the good counter tactic right here, by the way. Though in this case he ends up falling completely back, partly because he's only got one unit to sort of really help here, and the overall position was not good, but otherwise, you know, not entirely bad. Otherwise, sort of oorah away and then sort of get up a distance. Then, depending on what's going on, either if you're taking a point or he's trying to take a point of what, you know, trying to do with it, you can sort of then fight back or sort of get further back. Right here, though, we see our opponent sort of pulling back. In this case, I was able to sort of get the drop sufficient on him, but again, he was rather quick to retreat, in which case, again, the assault gunners very quickly drop off in effectiveness. I mean, they can't really sort of hurt units at that point. And again, we have a squad here trying to take a point again. In this case, a rather noted on the tactical minimap. Woo! And again, I sort of have an idea. And again, note here, I'm not just sort of rushing up here, I'm sort of trying to advance as closely as possible with the cover and get close. Of course, note, the assault gunners are beginning to suffer rather a bit now, and there we go. I mean, they have more health than the regular gunners, but at the same time, they still have less health than conscripts. On the wrong conditions, they can still end up taking quite a bit. And right here, in fact, we're down to 3 assault grenadiers. Other conscripts bombing in again. Oh, here he makes a bit of a mistake. They should have stopped up at range before engaging. Right here, he made the mistake of actually getting too close to my assault grenadiers. In the end, though, he still prevails, so still suffering actually some losses. And of course, you see here, the assault grenadiers are pushed back. But right here, still, I was able to, with 1 assault grenadier squad, push back 2 conscript squads, main 1, and even do some decent damage to 1 squad. Again, using reasonably sensible assault tactics. That is, again, advancing through cover, sprinting at the right time, and basically ensuring my opponent only sees me until the last moment. Things like that can sort of, you know, do best. And again, it's also going to be overall good assault tactics just here. Again, you know, use terrain as much as possible to cover your advance. When it comes to assaulting, you generally only want him to sort of really see you until the last moment. So that's generally something to keep in mind. We'll sort of here sprint ahead sort of a few minutes, or some minutes here to sort of show up further how assault gunners then can sort of perform later in game. And right here, a bit further into the game, they're all of a sudden veteran 2, they've actually gotten some kills in. And now we'll see another bit here, and that's basically usage of assault grenades. I believe, yes, there we go. Popping in, and note here, I'm getting in first close. I mean, generally, the assault grenades, by the way, are also now more powerful after the March deployment patch because the AoE works properly, but at the same time, generally still, you want to get close to the opponent. You want them to sort of have less chance to react to it. It sort of goes all over the place. Again, that's also another reason you want to get close with it. As you sort of further up the range, it tends to sort of scatter, and your opponent has more sort of leeway to move around you. Generally, if you want to deal with a unit with assault grenades, you want to get up close. And that's generally where you're have the larger chance of success. Of course, assault grenades also pretty damn good at clearing out buildings, because as that good old saying goes, if you want to clear out a house, lob a ton of grenades into it. So there we go. These veteran 2 guardsmen really didn't stand much of a chance after the assault grenades were unleashed upon them. And of course, sort of flanking in, of course, as veteran 2, they become sort of further lethal, more accurate, and also they can sort of, you know, become harder to hit. No, not by an awful lot. And of course, as they hit veterans, these sort of become really nasty, and that's also sort of a slight difference compared to the old ones. Yeah, sorry for bringing them up, but I mean, compared to the old ones, they really basically had a very limited lifetime. These, on the other hand, actually, you know, can live beyond that. They can be useful throughout in the game. You can sort of get away with calling in more, though again, you should be careful about it. Of course, you should consider the overall battlefield situation. Of course, assault grenades are going to be better on some maps than others. For example, a map like this, Minsk Pocket, lots of cover, lots of things here to sort of sneak around. They generally perform good in. Another map, for example, might be Stalingrad. Of course, you should always sort of be careful about them, because they'll also be thinking that sort of works out nicely against them. Flamethrowers, for example, can be sort of a bit nasty if they have to approach. Penal troops, for example, are also a bit nasty, and you generally have to sort of be careful about them. Assault penal troops can easily end up punishing assault grenadiers if you're not careful. Shock troops, of course, are a direct and harsh counter to the assault grenadiers as well. So, of course, you have to be a bit careful of that. Although, of course, if your assault grenadiers are sufficiently veteran, they might have a chance against some unveteran shock troopers. So there's a little something to keep in mind. Of course, vehicles are a great nemesis. In particular, with the sort of keeping at the right distance of the scout or basically any sort of light armored tank can tear them over, because nothing to worry about. They can't harm them, pretty much. So that's also a little vital thing there to keep in mind when dealing with your assault grenadiers, your gentlemen with the MP40. So, I mean, overall, I've sort of gone through some basic tactics of them, how to get the most out of them, also how to sort of try to deal with them as a Soviet player. Because certainly, once they get up close, they can be very frightful, they can be very painful, but if you counter them the correct way, they can very easily go down to a player who's not being too cautious about it. So that's something you have to keep in mind. I mean, they're not super soldiers, they're basically, well, they're pretty good up close, of course, but, you know, they're not immortal, and again, it's all about, you know, using tactics to the fullest. If you can actually get a lot out of your assault guns, they can do a lot of damage to your opponent. But again, I mean, to a certain extent, your opponent can also plan for them, counter them, and sort of all sorts of fun things there. So there are some things to keep in mind when using your assault grenadiers when playing with them. But overall, hopefully with this, you will be better equipped mentally towards using them, but also fighting against them. Overall, again, use them on any other assault troops. Do your best to sort of mask their advance, make them harder to hit or harder to see until it's too late. Use sprint if you have to close in, of course, in this case. For the opponent, always try to sort of be possible engage in that range. If not, building is also quite good depending on sort of how many windows there are. They can actually also put a decent stop to the assault grenadiers if well positioned. Otherwise, penal troops, light vehicles and other fun things generally also pay off in your fight against the assault grenadiers. So hopefully after watching this video you've got a slightly clearer idea of your assault grenadiers, how to use them, how to combat them. If you found this video, you know, useful, feel free to subscribe, tell your friends, share with everyone. If not, I'm deeply sorry to hear that. Anyways, this is Imperial Dane saying cheers and see you tomorrow.